All right, all you devils out there, how's it going? Sam here with you. It's Friday the 10th of December here, coming up. It's 12:45 for me here in Austin. All right, so I thought we'd pick up where we left off from last Friday. And this is kind of interesting. Now, we had highlighted the fact that we had this nice channel containing this we'll dig into determining what we've got here. And then we had drawn a couple of trend lines here. We had the trend line here in yellow and just the lower parallel of the channel, and that if we broke that, that would imply lower prices. Well, lo and behold, right? So, of course, if we look in here, we've got a pretty good break. Now, not only do we have the break, this is commonly what you'll see is that we get a retest from below, right? So we get the break, we come back, we tap the channel, and now we appear to be heading down to test some of the lower. This is rejection wick. It's not surprising that gets a little bit of a retest. Now, but I've redrawn this. Oh, shit, where did I put it? Right here. Okay, so I just brought this over here. Now, I've been talking about this for most of this year. Well, certainly since the spring when we started, whatever this is ultimately going to be. You'll note here I've just highlighted and just kind of thickened up the lines here of this internal channel that seems to be so important to the market here as we've bounced inside of it. Yep, we poked our heads out a little bit up at the top, but it would not be surprising to see that equal range here. So a little bit beyond down here would make sense. Now, if you look at this from the Elliott count, from that perspective and the mindset here, it's not hard to see a potential scenario here where we'd have this now would be potentially the A wave here. We've got a 3 into a B. And now if we're going to come down here with an impulse or a clean 5, well, you can see a scenario here that would put us just in this range here, the prior structure here, and I'll show you why I think that's potentially an area to be paying attention to for a target, either if you're short or if you're looking for a place to get long. So what we'd have here, of course, per that, if that's going to end up being the 4 over here, well, now we'd have the nice balance that I've been talking about since April in the way the median lines are framing the market. But essentially what we'd have here is just a big flat. Right? Sideways, right? We get sharp, sideways, right? It's taking a lot of time, right? It's frustrating a lot of people, but again, this is not, it's not terribly surprising, which is why I've been harping on this for, 6 months, right? It's just, this would make, really, it would just make sense, right? From an Elliott Wave perspective in terms of balancing out the structure here. Nobody's liked this count, but here we sit. Now, we're not out of the channel. So the next tell would be if we're going to break this channel, right? So if we get to that lower parallel and we start to break this structure, which of course we tested it here back now. Was that another test? If we start to break lower, you can see the potential for some of the next structural test would be down here in this range we've been talking about. So we kind of bring it back down here. You can see how that would just work itself out rather nicely. So here would be just a tremendous opportunity. But we're also talking about down here between, we got 34 to 28. Nobody thinks that's going to happen. More people tell me that there's no way that's going to happen, the more likely I think that it is. It's just being around the markets a long time, knowing how sentiment goes. Don't be surprised. Now, if we dig in there a little bit here and say, well, how would we get there? Well, it's all a question of how we're interpreting this. There's a very reasonable case here for 5 down. So we get an impulse here. We get a shallow 2, which Bitcoin, either you get a very shallow 2 or a very deep 2. We get the shallow 2 here. Now, are we done here? Is that the 3? Hard to say. Right now, when we dig down to some lower time frames, looks to me like this could be the 3 of the 3. We'd have another leg down here. And again, I'm just standard ops here, right? Members would all be likely have already done this here. So we've got this here. Well, here's our high probability count for a 3. We didn't quite make the 127 here, assuming this is going to hold as the 1-2, and we're heading now. We're certainly long enough for the 3 to be in here. Again, we go down, we're on the daily here. If we go down to some smaller time frames and look at the count here, you can kind of see how that could work, right? So you could be 1, 2, we'd come down here to 3, come back for the retest, maybe the center line of the channel, then back down here for the 5, right? Now, so we'd complete the impulse here, would give us the C wave, if that's going to hold, right? If we come down here, now we've got our flat. Now, one thing that seems kind of interesting to me. Now, let me get this off of here. Maybe this isn't the best one to do it on. I'm going to come back to that when we go to the lower time frames, because with the Brave New Coin, I can't go down below a daily. But I think this is a good place to be looking at it. And again, that inner channel, I'd be surprised if you didn't find value in having that on your chart. So here's the little poke and the reject, right? So here's the push pass. We can't seem to get out of this, right? So we stay in it. So the flat into the 4 down here again between 28 and 34, very much alive, very much a very real contender down here. Doesn't kill the bull count, right? People get all upset. Oh my God, right? Of course, the media, right? If we did that, Bitcoin's crashing. If you're an Elliottician, you're down here with just saying, come on, bring it in, right? Please. Now I know, right? That sounds counterintuitive if you're long or have recently gotten long. Well, that's not going to be good for you. But certainly with regards to the potential count here, all we're talking about is putting in the 4 before we kick for that 5. Right? That's not bad news long term, right? What's your time frame? What's your time horizon? Back to the median line. Well, nothing says we have to stop there. Would that be 120, 130? Right? Nothing says we have to stop there. Right, up to the upper parallel. Now it's getting interesting. But I'd certainly have the median line as a target. So there's the scenario into the flat. Now I'm going to dig into that in a little bit more detail in just a sec here. But let's look at a couple other scenarios. Now I'm going to bring over motive wave here, which I've been doing a lot of lately. Just a reminder, any of you interested in motive wave, which I cannot endorse any more highly. I would tell you it's the best TA package on the market. If you're interested in that, they have a very generous demo, and if you click the link in our little link tree that's underneath the video here, that would give you a link that would kick us a little bonus if you were to make the purchase here. Just full disclosure here, right? So if you wanted to support the channel, that'd be a nice way to do it, right? So here's the scenario that is less bearish, which still remains very much alive, and that's the triangle. So if I just kind of highlight this, now we've had a pretty good kick in the B. So if we're going to do this, all I've done here is just highlight targets that would be reasonable. So very, very common for the D to do a 618 relative to the B. Well, that means the C is going to likely need to be lower, and it would be less probable that the C is in now. If we start to if we think the C's in here and we're going to do a 618 here, now you lose the structure of the triangle. Maybe you could sneak out with a 50, but then still, now your E's here? It's starting to look less and less. Now you could have the ascending triangle. That's still in play, but I think this. Of the two, God, it's hard to call it, right? This C does not look like it's done to me. It looks like we've got to go down a little further, and that kind of puts us out back in this range here. There's my 618 for the D, and I think this would put the 4 down here, potentially us completing the triangle. If we do it this way, completing the 4 in the low 40s, 42, 43 in that range here, and then off you go for the 5, right? Again, still, the counts are all... they're all very bearish long term. Be surprised if somebody's got a bear count on this long term working off of a daily, but perhaps there are. So the triangle being a contender here, and I've just got some time components here relative to what I'm using is fib time. So length of the A from the B projecting for C, D, and E. So I've just got some contenders down here. One of the nice features of motive wave, it just lets you just right click and you can, from here do the time analysis for any of these swings, right? Very nice feature, right? Don't forget time. Both Gann and Elliott would tell you time equally, if not more important than price. Let me go over here and look at it a little bit, because this has got some really interesting confluence here. Now, if we're going to do this just via the flat, well, here, note, I've just highlighted the scenario here for the flat. So if it's going to be my view here, it's a WXY into, now here we label this as an A. I can get an impulse here, a little correct, obvious 3 here. It's open to interpretation how you count it, so I'm leaving that count off, but you can get an impulse in there if there's a little squish on the end of it. A, B, C. Now what are we doing here? 1, 2. All right, looks like 3 could be going. highlight this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can let's keep that highlighted. Come here. There it is. Well, so if we're going to finish, if the 1 and the 2 is in, we're working on the 3, the 4, and the 5. Well, you can see just a beautiful confluence point down here where we'd have parity with the channel. So the length of the A projected from the B, well, here's 100% C to the A. So obviously, if I highlight the channel that goes with that, you get your confluence point here. And you can see the count that would get you here. Well, now additionally, I put a set of median lines on it. Interesting confluence point. Now, this would also right here be 100%. Oh, what have I got here? This is the C versus the A. So the length of this wave relative to this wave, we'd have 100% in time. This is putting us, looks like, Jesus, where's my, put us here, what's the date there? January 18th. So coming into the first quarter of the new year, well, right here, I mean, if we're going to be tick perfect here, we'd be at January 17, 18, where we'd be tapping that median line, hitting the lower channel. If this is going to hold as a flat, well, that means this 5's got to complete. You can certainly see the case, how we could get that done. Oh, let's see if I kind of do it here. Let's go to a 3-hour here and see how that looks. If we're heading down here. So this, right, 1, 2, what do we do here, right? Just liquidation wick, quickly rejected. Oh, we can just decompose the impulse here. All right, so we can get an impulse here, 1, 2. This is a little funky in here, but process of elimination. So we get the 1, we get the 2. Now, if we're going to go for a good 3, you might anticipate lower prices here. Let me pop that off so we can take it down. So where's that 3 coming in? Well, again, if we're going to go more typical ranges here, let's go 3 to the 1. Well, here's our high probability zone, 618 to the 175. Put us down here at 39, 40-ish, 37, 39. That would give us a good target for the 3. We're going to kick back for the 4. Oh, we've got a center line here. Might be, well, we could just do it this way. Right? You can see that coming back into that structure, and then we're down here to finish the 5. Now, maybe not that far out, right? Nothing says we have to do it at 100%. We don't have to have parity there, but that's a reasonable target. Put us out towards the end of the year, right? So you can see now here, this is essentially a 3-hour. 1, 2, 3, 4, down for the 5. Seems like a path that I wouldn't ignore. Oh, what do I got here? Well, let's go back to let's go to a 12-hour. We'll do it. Wouldn't ignore this. 3, 4, probably a little more in the 4, down for the 5. Boom. You're buying it as aggressively, every penny, mortgage the house. No, I shouldn't say that. This would be the place to be aggressive. Right now, what you can afford to park in the market, you don't know how long it's going to be there. Hopefully, you park it there, you never sell it. But I wouldn't, no need to be over levered here, right? You just make yourself vulnerable. I don't know why people just insist on doing it. There's no need to do it. They want it all. They want it now. Okay, so I think we cover this here, the flat scenario. And again, there it is. Down for the 4, up for the 5. Bull count very much intact. We're just going through a more difficult correction here. All right, let's go down and look at this in a little more detail. So now here, last week we had, this was the edge here. So I had this, oh shit, here, I'll just recreate it. So I've got a couple of channels here that I'm just doubling. So actually, I think I can just bring this back here. So do you see what I've done? I've just added another channel here so I can get this lower parallel here. Now, the thing I wanted you to see here, and I'm kind of highlighting this congestion here, but what I want you to see is this here. So you'll notice when we first came down here, the first thing we did was test this pivot. Right. That's just the structure here. And that was a little front run. We got our pop reaction here. Now back test again, down we go. Well, now look what we're testing, right? We're back here to this structure here, which is why I've got these highlighted. Back to this little pivot. Down we come just shy of it, reject, right? Same thing that happened here, reject. Now, likely gets tested again. Now, if you think about that, where would we be most likely to see the reaction? Well, you can't, let's see, I got to go to a 4 here to do this. If we're going to continue on this trend that we've been in, where these prior resistance levels get a little test, and then do we break, do we hold? So each of these are slightly front run, right? So it's almost equidistant, right? The front run here versus the front run here. But if we take this down a bit, let me get that one off. let's think about where the next structural support, or pardon me, resistance would be likely to get tested. And I'm just using here, per this count here, the highest pivot. If this is going to be an ABC, this would be the area where you'd anticipate getting the next test. If that scenario here of test, retrace, test, retrace, if that's going to continue, well, you can certainly see the potential for this to come down. Now, I have this pivot here highlighted because at that point in time, the possibility of the 1, 2, 1, 2 gets killed. Right? So here's the 1, 2, possible 1. We're coming down for the 2. We break that pivot. That's off the table. So then you'd be leaning hard into this as a three-wave structure as an ABC. Oh, I think a diag would be less likely, although not impossible. But I think that's that we'd gone A, B, C into a 1. I think that's less likely. Let's let me go back to, let's go to a 1 hour. Here I've just got a regression channel on this coming down. Now, pretty good case for a 5. Now this gets a little tricky in here because the 1, 2 is, it's hard to have any certainty about exactly where that is. You'd have to do a little 1, 2 in there, 3, 4, 5. But it actually looks to me like this is a better 3 because this has got a very clear ABC in it. Oh, hang on. As I look here, this little ABC as the 4. If I can get that up here. My machine's acting a little weird. But ABC into that 4 down for the 5. That gives us the A. This is, it's not super evident here, but you'd probably have to do an A, B, C like this. I know it's a bit of a force fit, but you've just got consolidation. So the detail of the subdivision there, I don't know that it particularly matters with what's followed that. So call it 1, 2, 3. Now that's why I think this is a good candidate for a 4. It certainly has the structure of a 3, right? We can't argue with that. Now it could get all right, so what would the scenario there? That unlikely to be a 3, right? So 1, 2, 3, already blown this pivot. So that looks very much corrective. Now, are we going all the way down below to get a fresh low? Well, I can't rule it out. Now, note here on the kickback here, right to the Vegas wave and right to the center line of those channels, right? So right back to the trend line, and we were just looking at this on the prior break from where I started. This is incredibly common. The market loves to do this. We come back and we test it. That's to the tick. And we're coming back down here. Well, again, here is where we completely eliminate any 1, 2. This is already past the 887 for a 1, 2. Now, again, Bitcoin's prone to deep 2s or shallow 2s. But if we're coming back down here, this is equally as important, right? Do we get a full test? Do we break? If we break, then you're leaning into the 5, right? So is it a zigzag? Well, you can make a pretty strong case. A, B, we coming down for the C. Now, this would be typical of Bitcoin to not break this and keep that count alive. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But right now, this sure looks like there's one more leg down. And if we don't get a fresh low, at least to challenge that low. This is all wick down here. Oh, here at this degree. Let's bring that over. That's just all, that's your rejection right in your face, right? Down and pop. Now, we actually, use the higher pivot here. Come to that low right in the pocket. Right between the 50 and the 618 in the golden zone here, right again. How many times I say this, right? Right into the lips of the Vegas wave. So you can see that, look how we're tapping the Vegas wave. So back, lips, back, test it, lower lip, lower lip. Sure looks like that's got one more kick down. Now, do we get right to the edge of the channel? Double bottom would be classic Bitcoin. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Now remember, coming back, we got all of this to get through. If we're coming back from down here, you do have a target down here, which would invalidate the 2. Or if we go down, so if this algo gets its target, right, 2's off the board. Which I would prefer, actually. I prefer to eliminate a contender here, so then we can get clear-eyed about what the potential is. So I think one thing I would be cautious about, again, nothing says this couldn't happen, but that we're thinking that we're going 1, 2 and off we go. I think that seems the least probable, not impossible, just less probable then another tap down to test that low. Right, the momentum is certainly down here. We're pushing a little bit lower. We'll see, right? It's a wild card going into the weekend, but I don't think there is a trade here based off of what we see. That sure looks like it's starting on the leg down. Now, oh shit, here, let me get down a little closer down there. There might be some shorter term stuff. Oh, looks like that might be a 50. Let's just take a look here. My machine's lagging at the moment. We got past the 50, so there it is again, right? Tapping the Vegas wave. Well, just shy of the 618. Well, here's the next algo target. Now, if we come down here and we get this, that's again going to be more problematic if all that wick rejection that we're kind of highlighting down here, where it comes right here. If we come, here's our target right here. That would be typical of Bitcoin. So what? Jesus, can you even do it? Looks like you've got a 5 here. You couldn't do it. So you can't get an impulse here. I don't think you can get a diag. Maybe you can get an A, B, C. This looks like you got a clear 5 in there. It does. I won't say. That looks like you got 3. Well, it's a bit of a stretch, but that looks like you might be able to work your way into a 5 here, which would make you think A, B, C. All right, we tap the center line, Vegas wave, down we come. First retrace is technical. All right, now second target on the edge of the parallel. Third target, which we know would be close to the 1618. We're still not invalidating that the thick dotted yellow line is the invalidation. Not there yet. But to try and interpret this bullishly, maybe lay off the hopium pipe there. That could be too much to ask of the market per the structure as it sits right now. Right? Of course, now Bitcoins can always surprise us. Oh, I think I covered everything there. I think I got everything covered there. I bring you back here. The flat seems the most likely right now in my mind here, that we're going to come down here and finish this with a 5. Right now we'd have our guidelines of alternation, right? So sharp, sideways. We can hope, right? I know it seems so counterintuitive. What, you're long as hell and you're hoping it's going to drop from 47 to 20, 28, 29. Yeah, buy of a lifetime. If we see it. I think originally when I first posted this with a set of median lines, I said that we've got the potential here for one of the great Elliott Wave structures of all time. And that was challenged along the way. People saying, "Oh man, doesn't need to do that. The 4's in," and it may be. The 4 may be in here. I just think it's less likely. I'm just going to stay with that until the market forces me to reconsider that. So I'd be cautious here. Oh, some negative headlines across the board, right? Inflation, obviously, everybody's going to read about that today or has already read about it. Is kicking. Is Bitcoin really going to serve as an alternative in the face of such high inflation? Remains to be seen, right? I think it still is characterized as a risk asset. So when it's risk off, Bitcoin seems to sell off. When it's risk on, back we go. All right, guys, short and sweet today. I confess I'm a little hungover. I'm sorry. I'm dragging a little bit, so I maybe don't have my usual enthusiasm here, but I'm about 4 hours of sleep. The early Christmas parties, it's so easy. Oh, sir, can I get you another beer? Oh, all right, one more. All right, never a good idea, right, when particularly if you got to work the next day. So with that, I'm going to sign off here, and this, I think, will be really interesting next week when we get back here to visit and see how this has done. How do we handle this lower trend line here of this internal channel? And what do we get here, 3 or a 5? We get a 3, I'm thinking triangle. We get a 5. Oof. Well, we'll see. Okay, guys, have a good weekend. Live streams back on Monday and Tuesday of next week. And then my partner, Monty Crypto, on Wednesday. Look for those. And with that, I wish you guys a good weekend, and we'll catch you on